Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
Welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. For a radio audience tuning in at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all can be with us. Also, tuning in to our online friends through iHeartRadio as well as Amazon Music. We're glad you all could be with us as well. So we're kicking off 2024. We're so excited to welcome back best-selling author Deborah Goodrich Royce to our broadcast. You guys know her, of course, the last time we spoke because of her runaway bestseller, REEF ROAD. It is now available in paperback, so you have many ways to be able to enjoy this book that is definitely a page-turner. We're going to talk to Deborah not only about the response to the book, but also what it's playing for her to see how people are feeling about the characters and the story. And, of course, we'll remind you how you can be able to get your own copy of it. Deborah, thank you again for the time. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me back, Cyrus.
Look, the pleasure's definitely all mine. As I was just saying to you before we went live, you had quite the schedule for 2023, and I looked at your Instagram, and I was prepping for this, Deborah. You have quite the beginning of 2024 as well. So what has it been like for you, Deborah, to see the way that people are responding to REEF ROAD?
Well, it's really gratifying. You know, when you write something, you really can only write it with your own perspective and your own understanding, and it's never clear if anybody else will get it. So it always feels like a little bit of a happy miracle when other people do.
Yeah. And what I loved about the book when we first discussed it, Deborah, was the fact that this is a story that was very, very personal for you because it kind of was inspired by real events. But I love the way that, in the way that you wrote the book, kind of giving us, the writer of your story, of course, being able to kind of reflect on things. And I kept thinking to myself, I wonder if this is the way that Deborah would think about a situation like this if she found herself in a situation similar. What have those conversations been like? Because I'm sure other readers have asked you that same question.
Well, right. People always want to know how much of this is actually you, the writer, and how much of it is completely made up. And it's some kind of magical combination of the two. You're obviously using yourself as source material, and the thoughts are coming through your head, but it also sometimes feels like they come from a mysterious place that you don't even know what that is.
Exactly. And I think, again, that's what makes the story so powerful. And I love the fact that you're able to really draw people in. The other thing that has been kind of a consensus, Deborah, with this book is how real it feels to people, right? So I think that kind of murkies the water even more about, how much of this, is truly inspired. But talk to us about these characters. How did they initially come to you?
So, when COVID shut the world down, I began the research into the real crime of my real mother's best friend, and that then led to the vision of approaching it through a work of fiction. And I wanted to focus less on the crime itself than on the effect of that crime on someone else. So that was the genesis of the character of the writer in the book. There's a character of a writer who is obsessed with her mother's friend's murder. So that came about very naturally. And then the other main point of view character is a young wife whose husband and children disappear about 3 weeks into the lockdown. And that was inspired really by my love of noir. I rewatched the movie the one with Kathleen Turner and William Hurt, Body Heat, that takes place in Florida. And I wanted more of a noirish plot line for that. So that's where that came from.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it is the way you're able to write this book, it makes you keep wondering, what is going to happen next. And I think, too, how much of what I love, too, about the book, Deborah, is how you really draw us into how events of the past impact our lives today. Talk to us about that, what it was like for you to kind of slip into the skin of the writer, in the book and kind of think about, of course, how much her life has been impacted, not only, of course, by this murder, but also about how this murder has impacted her life and those around her.
So I think we are beginning to scratch the surface of an area of study called epigenetics. And this really has to do with trauma that we carry that comes from people who came before us. And epigenetics, epigenetic trauma can play out in a small scale, as in the case of my mother, whose best friend was murdered. And it can play out in much larger ethnic, cultural, national strains. Think about descendants of enslaved Americans, descendants of Native Americans, descendants of Holocaust victims. Those would be three very recognizable groups of people that may carry burdens that they don't even know they carry. I'm not a scientist, and I certainly couldn't speak with any expertise. But in the case of this book, I know my mother was changed by the murder of her friend. I know I was changed by the fact that this happened to my mother. So I wanted to dig at that.
And I love the fact that we're able to see Noelle kind of grow in the story as well. I think, that is one of the things as well. We see the impact, as you were just alluding to, Deborah, but also, of course, the fact that there is an effort to be able to move forward and to find some type of healing and closure for oneself, to get to a place where one could feel as though they could kind of move forward for sure. Did you expect when you wrote this book, when REEF ROAD was first released, did you expect that it would kind of just really take over the way it did?
No, I didn't. Again, you never know. Sometimes it feels like throwing spaghetti at the wall. You just hope some of it's going to stick. It's like talking to another person. We all have a profound need to be understood. You're talking to somebody and you say something, and if they say, I get it, I know what you mean, it kind of takes your breath away. It's very gratifying. What it means is that we are connected as human beings. We have shared experience.
Deborah, when you said that just now, it reminded me of something I had not thought about, and that is the fact that I think the thing for myself when reading REEF ROAD that really stuck with me is how me they seemed, how just like individuals like us,
right,
they seem, and like you just said, people want to feel understood. They want to feel, and we see these characters kind of navigating that as well, seeing, being able to see not only, of course, their own worth, but also what they can achieve in their own lives as well. What has it been like for you? You mentioned, of course, COVID, and that's one thing, of course, that has impacted all of our lives for sure. But what has it been like for you to be out and about now, Deborah, and to be able to kind of to enjoy the success of this book now with readers?
It's very satisfying to go out and talk to readers, and, people come up. They don't generally raise their hands to tell their own trauma stories, but a lot of times people will come up afterwards and tell me the story of something that happened in their family or to a dear friend, and they, things that they feel relieved to know that it is not unusual to carry that on your back a little bit in a way that sometimes might not make a lot of sense, because other people might say, well, it didn't happen to you, did it? But it did in a way.
Yeah. Such a great thing, and such a great book. So if our audience has not enjoyed it already, now is the opportunity. You have lots of options. You can get REEF ROAD in hardcover. You can get it in Kindle, but now also paperback. It is a national bestseller. It's a great read for any time of the year. You can get it through our friends at Amazon.com or through your favorite local bookstore. Also, I noticed on your schedule, Deborah, you're going to be visiting libraries, so check and see if your local library may have it as well. Deborah, how can our audience stay connected with you?
Well, I have a website, DeborahGoodrichRoyce.com, and I'm very active on Instagram. I'm on all the social media platforms, but Instagram is my most active.
All right. Well, Deborah, congratulations to you again. So glad we get to kick off this year with you, and looking forward to chatting with you again.
Thank you so much.
More than welcome. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Thanks as always. Enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Now let's go make today amazing. Take care.